Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone for today's Bhakti Shastri class. We are on the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 18, titled as Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. Let's offer prayers together and begin our discussion. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatade Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion. And we are on the 18th chapter. Let me just pull out the presentation. Oh, where is the Zoom? Yes. Okay. One second. Yeah. So chapter 18, titled as Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. So in essence, Bhagavad Gita is more or less completed by the end of chapter 17. So what is the subject matter of 18th chapter? 18th chapter, just like chapter 2, where a summary was presented of all the ideas and the concepts which we find further elaborated in the later on chapters from 3rd chapter to 17th chapter. Similarly, now Krishna is concluding and summarizing everything what he had spoken here. Let me start with a question, actually, rather than I say that. Let's take a look at it. In order to emphasize the goal of the all Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is now going to summarize more or less everything that he already told before. So in every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna stresses? So there are 4 questions. You can pick it up, whatever you think is the right answer. First, do your duty and leave the rest to Almighty. This is the key point that Krishna is stressing, chapter after chapter. Point number 2, Devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. Or else, point number 3, renunciation of the work is supreme. Of 4, act according to dharma and enjoy the world. So this is this concluding chapter is a summary of all. So we're kind of raising a point. What is the one point which has been emphasized again and again? And the same point would be emphasized in the 18th chapter also. So what do you all think about it? Among the 4, you can use a chat window and probably write down your inputs there. That'll be easy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, there are only inputs from 2 devotees so far. What about others? No, just type the number. Out of the 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, just type quickly. What do you think is the probably is a key subject matter which Krishna has emphasized again and again? All right, now the inputs are coming in. So the correct answer is the second answer. Devotional service under the Supreme Personality Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. And no doubt this chapter would also highlight the same point again. So let's begin with it. Let's take a look at the acronym for this chapter. And then we'll start with the verse number 1, where Arjuna apparently asked a question. So SMILE is the acronym for this chapter, where in the first 18 verses we'll see S for summary. Summary of what? Summary of Karma Yoga. So the purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation. Not only renunciation alone, but samsiddhim haritoshanam, which means whatever we do, our act should bring pleasure to the Lord. So here now at this point of time, Arjuna wants to clarify. Apparently they are distinct, but seems to be same. Often we get confused into it, and he's going to ask the question on the subject matter, what is renunciation, that is tyaga, and what is the renounced order of life, sannyasa? Let's take a look at it. Arjuna asks the question, text number 1, chapter number 18. Arjuna vacha sannyasya mahabhavo tattvam ichhami veditum Tyagasya Charishikesha Patakkeshi Nishudana. Keshi Nishudana, you had killed Keshi demons, so you can kill the doubts that have arisen in the mind. And I want to understand Sannyasasya, renounced order of life. Tattvam Ichhami Veditum. Veditum means I want to understand. Tattvam means truth. Ichhami means I desire. Can you please tell me, my dear Lord, Sannyas Asya, the renounced order, and Tyagasya, of renunciation, Prathak Keshi Nishudanaha. So, what is sannyas order and what is renunciation? Like that, Arjuna raises a question over here. So, very nice purport where Prabhupada kind of gives the summary of Bhagavad Gita, more or less a whole summary of Bhagavad Gita, what we have discussed so far. Let's read the purport and then we'll move forward. Anyone would like to read the purport to text number 1? Madan Mohan Mohini Mataji, please go ahead.
Arjuna said, O mighty armed
one. You are
one,
not audible, mother. Wait a second, let me just check my speaker here. My speakers are all good.
So it's all good from my side also.
Yeah. Sorry. Somehow the sound became minimum for me. Yes, mother, go ahead.
Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyasa, O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses.
Continue.
Okay, actually the Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters. The 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of the topics discussed before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. This same point is summarized in the 18th chapter as the most confidential path of knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, stress was given to devotional service. Yoginam api sarvesham. Of all yogis or transcendentalists, one who always thinks of me within himself is best. In the next six chapters, pure devotional service and its nature and activity were discussed. In the third six chapters, knowledge, renunciation, the activities of material nature, and transcendental nature and devotional service were described. It was concluded that all acts should be performed in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, represented by the words Om Tat Sat, which indicate Vishnu, the Supreme Person. The third part of Bhagavad Gita has shown that devotional service and nothing else is the ultimate purpose of life. This has been established by citing past acharyas and the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. Certain impersonalists consider themselves to have a monopoly on the knowledge of Vedanta Sutra. But actually, the Vedanta Sutra is meant for understanding devotional service, for Lord himself is the composer of the Vedanta Sutra and he is its knower. That is described in the 15th chapter. In every scripture, every Ved, devotional service is the objective. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita. As in the second chapter, a synopsis of the whole subject matter was described. In the 18th chapter, also the summary of all instruction is given. The purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation and attainment of the transcendental position above the three material modes of nature. Arjun wants to clarify the two distinct subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, tyag, and the renounced order of life, sannyas. Thus, he is asking the meaning of these two words.
Hare
Two words
Krishna.
seem
So in the last paragraph, thank you, Mother. In the last paragraph, Prabhupada is talking about what he had discussed in the first chapter also, how different names of Krishna have different meanings. So, okay, continue. Let's read the last paragraph also. That's what is highlighted.
two words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord, Rishikesh and Keshi Nisudan, are significant. Rishikesh is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us attain mental serenity. Arjun requests him to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet he has some doubts, and doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addresses Krishna as Keshi Nishudan. Keshi was the most formidable demon who was killed by the Lord. Now Arjun is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother. So let's take a look now how Lord Shri Krishna responded. So Srila Prabhupada gave brilliant purpose summarizing what we have studied until now to the 17th chapter. And Prabhupada says in the 18th chapter, the same statement of how we should perform devotional service has been highlighted or summarized here. Come back to the question again. So Arjuna asked the question, my dear Lord, what is renounced order? And what is renunciation? Are they same or different? So Lord Shri Krishna says, text number 2, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sanyasam Gavayo Vidhu Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam Rahus Tyagam Vichakshanaha. So Lord Shri Krishna responded, Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam. So Nyasam, renunciation. What is renunciation? So translation, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what learned men call the renounced order of life. Sannyasam kavayo viduhu. To give up the work itself. And giving up sarva karma phalatyagam. Sarva karma phalatyagam is the result born out of your actions. Tyagam, giving up the result of your action, is what a wise man called it to be renunciation. So this is the essence of it. Sannyas versus tyaga. So sannyas means giving up activities based on material desires, karma itself. Whereas tyaga means giving up the results of all activities. So that's the point which is mentioned. Okay, let's take a look at text number 3. Tyajayam doshavad iti ke karma praho manishnah yagnadana tapaha karma natyajam iti cha pare. So there are two opinions. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. So that's what they call as sannyas order. Yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abundant like this. So two types of activities. One is nitya karma and second is called as kama karma. So what to be given up is kama karma. What not to be given up is nitya karma. So what is nitya karma? Prescribed duties that leads to spiritual development, like deity worship. Kama karma based on one's desires, which are meant to fulfill some personal desires, like putra kameshti yajna, like this. So once again, what is sannyas and tyag? Sannyas means one gives up kamya karma and performs nitya karma. In tyaga, one performs both kamya and nitya karma, but gives up the attachment to the results. Hare Krishna. Is that making sense? Because this gets sometimes tricky about sannyas, renounce order, and renunciation. Let me put it this way. So, what path is Krishna recommending in Bhagavad Gita? Sannyas order or the path of Tyaga? So, we'll get to know if this was clear to all of us. So, what path is Krishna recommending? What should we follow? Sannyas order or the path of Tyaga? Okay, good. Thank you. All of your inputs now make sense. That what I'm saying is clear to all of you. Okay, so that's the point here. In text number 2 and 3, Lord Shri Krishna answers like this. Text number 4, Krishna declares, Nishayam Shinu me tatra. Now you hear from me with certainty. Tyage Bharata Sattama. About the subject matter enunciation. Tyago hi Purusha Vyagra Trividha Samprakirtitaha. Text number 4, Krishna says, O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of 3 kinds. Hare Krishna. Purport. Although there are differences of opinion about renunciation, here the Supreme Personality Godhead Shri Krishna gives a judgment, which should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord. Here the Lord is personally present and his word should be taken as final. The Lord says that the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes of material nature in which they are performed. Text number 5. Yagnadana tapha karma natyajam karyameva tat Yajnadanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. So here Krishna is talking about certain activities which even purify the purified souls. Krishna says, acts of sacrifice, charity, dana, yajna, dana, tapa means penance, are not to be natyajyam karyam. Such actions are never to be given up. Yajna, danam, tapaschaiva, they must be performed. Indeed, pavanani manishanam, such acts such as sacrifice, charity, and penance, they purify even the great souls. As very important discussion is about to begin, let's take a look at the purport. Somebody would like to read the purport here? Mother Kishori Rani, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Purport: the yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yagya. Should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yagya, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yagya should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of the heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advance spiritual life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, from verse number 4 to verse number 12, Lord Shri Krishna gives his opinion or conclusion on the subject matter of sannyas versus tyaga. So Arjuna pondered. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. We saw that in one of the verses previously. So Lord Shri Krishna begins to answer that. What is Krishna's opinion? Krishna says the spiritualist always encourage the following of purificatory practices such as sacrifice, charity, and penance. This is text number 5. It even purifies the great souls. And just now, Mother Keshwarani read the purport of this text number 5. Very, very important. The reason I'm kind of again highlighting it, Prabhupada is giving an example that marriage ceremony, Vivaha Yagya. For example, sannyasi who renounced their life has got nothing to do with woman or the marriage. Now, should he go around telling people you should not get married? No. Prabhupada says, well, for a young man, it is recommended because it will bring a peace of mind and make him stable. So such kind of vivaha yajna should not be abolished. It is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. And for most men, this vivaha yajna should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Interestingly, Prabhupada is making this point here because Srila Prabhupada himself had arranged and organized marriage ceremony for some of his disciples. And some of his godbrothers criticized him for that, how a sannyasi is involved in such affairs. So here Prabhupada is making a point about it. Sannyasi should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one is in the lower stage of life. A young man should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Interesting, huh? Marriage is called as Vivaha Yajna, is one of the yajna, recommended yajnas. So, in essence, what is that? Let's take a look at verse number 6. Etani api tu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavyani iti me partha nishitam matamuttamam. Lord Shri Krishna says, all these activities should be performed without attachment. Sangam tyaktva phalani cha, giving up attachment to the phala. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pratha. That is my final opinion. For example, Arjuna, you should perform your duty as a matter of duty and leave the results in the hands of the Lord of Providence. You being a Kshatriya engaging in the war may seem like for an outsider an act of violence, but that act of violence is needed to establish dharma, and that will advance you in spiritual life. Just like a surgeon performing a surgery on the body of a patient, for a layman or novice or ignorant person, it may look like an act of violence. However, that surgery is needed to cure the problem with which that patient is suffering. So do it as a matter of duty. Sometimes it happens. In fact, we all would have had an example during our school days when for the first time we saw the blood. How many of you remember some boys and girls in your class fainted? You know, how much ever it is something you may dislike it, but if you have become a doctor, if you're a surgeon, blood is something which is going to be part of your life, you do it as a matter of duty. That's the point which is mentioned here about the subject matter. All right. So Prabhupada writes at the end of this purport to text number 6, last line, a devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. Continuing with the essence here, the performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Once again, performance of activities for results has to be given up. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. Now for text number 7, 8, and 9, Lord Shri Krishna talks about renunciation in mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. Let's take a look at what are these, how individual, according to the modes, take to the path of renunciation. Text number 7. Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmanunupapdyate mohatasya parityagas ramasa parikititah. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, moha tasya parityagas, out of illusion, tamasaha parikirtitaha, such renunciation is declared to be in the mode of ignorance. There's a small purpose, we can read it out. Mother Rati Manjari, your hand is up, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Work for material satisfaction must be given up, but activities which promote one to spiritual activity like cooking for the Supreme Lord and offering the food to the Lord and then accepting the food are recommended. It is said that a person in the renounced order of life should not cook for himself. Cooking for oneself is prohibited, but cooking for the Supreme Lord is not prohibited. Similarly, a sannyasi may perform a marriage ceremony to help his disciple in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. If one renounces such activities, it is to be understood that he is acting in the mode of darkness. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Once again, I'll bring attention to text number 5. The activities, prescribed activities particularly, and among them, yajna dana tapaha, they purify even the gates. So such activities should not be given, particularly those which have been prescribed in the scriptures. Text number 8. Dukham ityeva yat karma kaya klesha bhayat tejat sakratvaraj santyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhat. Dukham ityeva yat karma kaya kalish bhayat tejat. So some actions have been given up or work has been given up because one finds it troublesome, one finds it to be difficult for the body, bodily discomfort, kaya kalesha, bhayat, or fearful. Sakritva rajasam tyagam, giving up of such work, then is said to be the renunciation done out of mode of passion. Naiva tyaga phalam labhet. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Purport, Mother Chintamani, please read the purport. Unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. One who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. If a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the result of renunciation.
Yeah. So giving up because of bodily discomfort, and that's the reason, because of one doesn't find happiness doing it, just like working in an IT company and finding it difficult to cope up with the manager, and then think of giving a work that is mode of passion renunciation. All right. So what is an renunciation? Mode of goodness. Text number 9. Karyamiti vayat karma niyatam kriyete arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko mata. Okay, I should have asked this question before. Let me ask you this in case if you're not at the transition. You got to know what is renunciation, ignorance, and passion. Ignorance, person, gives up even the prescribed duties, generally out of illusion, not knowing what is right and wrong. Whereas in the case of passion, if the activity is a little difficult to perform and if he finds it involves bodily discomfort and he's not happy about it, then he gives it up. Now, mode of goodness, renunciation, mode of goodness. What would be the renunciation mode of goodness? Any thoughts? We've been reading about modes from the 17th chapter quite a lot. What could potentially be renunciation and mode of goodness? Madhamaidhini. Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandam Pranam. Prabhuji,
Danvers.
to renounce for the Lord as offering the result for the Lord, giving up
Okay.
the food for Krishna.
Well, generally, more of goodness means if that is the case, then what would be transcendental or, the Shuddha Sattva?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Nitai Pran Prabhu, Mother Anjana, is that your hands for reading or answer? Not sure because I believe your hands were up already. Yeah, Nitai Pran Prabhu, go ahead.
So it's for both reading as well as to answer this question. Can you hear me
Yes,
properly?
yes.
I think if you've been doing some duties just has been asked to do, that is something which needs to be given up, and that something is in the mode of goodness. Just to
Sorry,
be
say that
performing
again.
if you've
What was
been
that?
if you've been just performing the duties as per the rituals, but not with the bhava.
Oh no. That's that's not possible for everyone. Baba and all that will come very late. That's okay. What is mode of goodness? Renunciation. Point is perform your duty as a matter of duty. Plus, without attachment for the results. Success or failure, so be it. But this is my duty, I need to do it. So, what one need to renounce, the message of Bhagavad Gita is one's attachment. What we are fixing and giving up is our mental conditioning, not the actual action. Let's take a look at text number 9 now. You're there on the screen. You can also read the translation. Translation proper text number 9.
O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. A prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna, and when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally.
So, example comes of Jayananda Prabhu himself. He was a graduate of Ohio State University, and then he joined Temple, I believe, in California. And at one point of time, he again had to take up the job. He was driving taxi to just support the temple. So he was performing his duty for the sake of doing it and for supporting the temple. So that's the point over here. So just like Shivaji Maharaj, I'm not exactly able to remember the reference, but I've heard it and read it also. So if in case somebody knows, they can send a message. I'm skipping the reference for it, but I do remember Shivaji Maharaj came to meet Tukaram and he wanted to renounce. And it was Tukaram who sent Shivaji Maharaj back saying that you are a Kshatriya, it's important for you to go to rule and establish dharma. And well, he went and followed the advice of Tukaram, although he wanted to give it up, all this Kshatriya responsibility, and become a sadhu like Tukaramji. So here is the summary of it: renunciation in 3 modes. In ignorance, they give up the prescribed duties also. What to speak about other duties? In passion, they give up duties because they find it difficult and painful. In goodness, well, duty has to be performed, but without attachment to the results. In fact, what needs to be given is our attachment to the results. And what pure goodness is what Mother Maidani has said, where things are performed, everything for the pleasure and satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, who is an intelligent renouncer? Text number 10, Krishna answers that. Na dveshti akushalam karma kushalena anusacchate tyagi sattva samavishto medha vichinna samshaya. The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. Just like again Arjuna's example, he has to engage in the war, which apparently seems to be a ghastly task of fighting. Is it auspicious or inauspicious? All right, fight in one sense it looks like is never auspicious, but it is auspicious because it is meant for establishing dharma. So that it becomes, although it may look like ugly. We gave an example of surgeon. Also, similarly, parents. At times, parents has to chastise their kids. You know, somebody may find it inappropriate, but that chastisement, particularly the kids, may find inappropriate. But that chastisement is for the good of kid. So, intelligent announcers situated in mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work, just like parents have to chastise their kids, nor attached to auspicious work, just like pampering their kids always, has no doubts about work. What is required has to be done. That's the point. So freed from the desires of like and dislike, but they do it as a matter to fulfill dharma. Like this text number 10. Text number 11. Now Krishna talks about that Arjuna, nobody can stay without performing activities. It is impossible to give up activities. Text number 11. नाहि देह वृथा शक्यं त्यक्तुं कर्माण्यशेषतः यस्तु कर्मा फलत्यागी सात्यागिति अभिधीयते. So once again to remind you, verse number 1 to verse number 18 is discussing, summarizing the concept of karma yoga, and that's what is going on here. What is an renunciation? So Srila Prabhupada gives the translation for this verse. It is indeed impossible, Krishna says, impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, karma-atmakam buddhi. But he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. A very beautiful purport. Somebody would like to read the purport of text number 11. Madharanjana, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandavata. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that one can never give up work at any time. Therefore, he who works for Krishna and does not enjoy the future results, who offers everything to Krishna, is actually a renuncer. There are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give it to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here how to renounce the fruits of work and for what purpose fruits should be renounced. Hare
So
Krishna.
for the same reason, we have had a slide over here of Ambrish Prabhu, Alfred Ford. Everyone is very well aware of him, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and who has continued to perform his material responsibilities and has contributed tremendously for the dream project of Srila Prabhupada, that is Temple of Vedic Planetarium. That's the point Prabhupada is mentioning here. There are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give it to the society. That's the point. So Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, how is it possible? Okay, well, one more verse after that, afterwards. Text number 12, Krishna continues, and then we'll come to text number 13. So text number 12, Krishna said, Anishtam Mishtam Mishram Cha Trividham Karmana Phalam Bhavati Yatyaginam Pretya Natu Sanyasinam Kachit. Translation: for one who is not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. Na karma lipyate naraha. Ishopanishad also says so. Text number 1 of Ishopanishad is Ishavasam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagatena taktena banjida magadakasya svidhanam. So to understand that Isha, the Vishnu or Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, they're the control of everything. Like this, and then comes second verse. Kurvan eveha karamani jiji visikshatam samaha evam toi nanite tosti na karma lipyate nare. Kurvan api karamani. With this knowledge, one who performs works and he continues to live his life, despite engaging into work in this world, which some, Gyanis often consider that all work is faulty. If you engage in any action, it will lead to, lead to reaction. So it is said, even if you're engaged in action with this understanding, Isha is the control of everything, then na karma lipyate nare. In other words, also the result is ordained by him. We're just a recipient of his mercy. Not that result has come because of my effort, like that. Na karma lipyate nare. Such an action would not accrue any reaction. And the same point Krishna is saying here. For one who is not renounced the threefold fruits of action, act, desirable, undesirable, and mixed. But those who in the renounce their life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. Arjuna is perplexed. He's like, how is it possible actually? You're talking about renounce the fruits of action. But how can we really renounce the fruits of action? Any quick thoughts into it? First of all, how many of you think it's very difficult actually? Whenever we do something, there is an attachment comes. I have done it. I have put so much effort into it. Isn't it? Now Krishna is saying, become renounced from this idea. Be detached from the results of your action. So here Krishna is going to give a profound answer to this. But any thoughts? How would you answer this question? Somebody asks you, this karma yoga is all about performing your duties, and whatever result comes, don't be attached to it. How can I become detached from my actions? Any thoughts? What would you like to say?
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Sandeep, go ahead.
Becoming attached to something higher, you can detach from something lower. So,
okay. Param drishtva nivartate, develop higher taste, lower taste will go away. What is that getting attached to higher? Please define for us.
Getting attached to higher means if you are attached to your guru's instruction, if you are attached to your
how do you become attached to guru's instructions?
If you are taking association of your guru and you come and you take his instruction as your life and you try to serve him and put all your thoughts, everything into that.
So, valid point. Then argument may come, my dear sir. You had been into this creation for God knows for how long, and you have been carrying forward this karmatmakam buddhi, very strong attachment to the results. I mean, if you agree, anything we do, maybe not now, but if you look back at your life in the past, the very first question, any action we have ever taken, anything we have accepted, the very first question will come in our mind always is, what's in for me? Yes or no? Even a small child have this. Nobody have trained him. Even a small child has it. So it's a very deep rooted. So to become attached to Guru's instruction and all that, okay, yeah, that's a gradual thing. Correct answer. What else? What are the thoughts others would like to share? And it's a big subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Anadi Nishman Prabhu, then Mother Medhavni after that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. So, Prabhu, one thing that I heard from a senior devotee was that before performing any task, if we can have a consciousness that, okay, like Krishna, that I'm going to do this for you. So whatever be the results, they will be for you. And after performing that task, we again remind ourselves that, okay, whatever be the results, they'll be for Krishna. So that kind of constant remembrance helps us develop that mindset that whatever we do, we are doing for Krishna, and kind of makes us unattached or detached from the outcomes.
Do you agree knowledge is not enough?
Yeah, that's true.
So how would it really help if you're just doing this mental training? Krishna, this is for you. After the results, after eating the results, Krishna, this is also for you because I am also for you. So everything for you. My little experience is it's a very difficult thing to do. So I'm just kind of taking inputs. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're correct. But I'm just kind of poking all of you just to see what exactly happens. Do you acknowledge or not? It's a very difficult thing. Just saying that, doing like this. But good answer. Okay, with Medhavni. Go ahead. Then Mahesh, Madhav Kripa, right? If I'm correct, initiative name. Yes. Go ahead, Madhav Medhavni. Oh, you are muted. Unmute. Ha, bolo, bolo,
Hare
bolo.
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. So I was just thinking that understanding that I'm not the only doer. I am only as Jiva. I'm only desiring, and it is only by the will of the Lord and the sanction of the Lord, and what is arranged by the Prakriti or material nature with the sanction of the Lord that it happens. So I make it a point to continuously think about that that mind management session where you talk about this paralysis, right? So when my mind desires I want to do something, so sometimes I'm able to do it, but when a person has paralysis, right, although I may want to lift my hand, I cannot lift my hand. So very clearly I always think of this example because I'm usually conditioned so much to take credit for whatever little I do. So this is what I keep reiterating to myself, that this paralysis example really stands in the mind. And I was also hearing Amrendra Prabhu, he was talking about how his illness, Radha Govind Swami Maharaj, in initial stages when a devotee met with an accident, he went to the doctor, and the doctor was apparently saying that I've saved the patient. And then Maharaj asked the doctor, do any patients that come to your hospital ever die? And the doctor said, yeah, they die. Whoever has to survive according to their karma, they survive, others die. And then Maharaj asked him, why are you killing your patients? If you're taking credit for saving the patients, you should also take the credit, so-called credit, for killing the patients in that. So these are some of the things that reiterate to myself when I hear lectures by yourself and others. So that at one point in time, I can come up to the point of realizing that nothing happens, not even a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Madhav Kripa Prabhu, go ahead.
I completely agree with you, Prabhuji. It's not so easy, and probably it will take some lifetimes, or at least this lifetime, to come to that consciousness that whatever we are doing is doing to dovetail everything towards Krishna, or giving the fruits of our action to Krishna. But there has to be a small way at which we start, and I think we are making those endeavors, and we pray to God that this endeavors succeed, at least while we complete this life and we don't have another human life. So that's the thing. And as Mother Medhavini said, that consciousness to always remember that we can't even lift our hand if the Lord does not want it to happen. So yeah, in many situations we very conveniently forget this, but time and again when we hear from acharyas, when we hear from during our lectures, we have to constantly remind this, and that helps us to be grounded.
Okay, thank you. Madan Radhika.
Prabhuji, I think before coming into Krishna consciousness, we were attached with material things and detached from Krishna. Now, when we are into Krishna consciousness, slowly we are getting attached to Krishna and getting detached from material things. So automatically, when we get detached from material things, we do our karma, but we feel that whatever we get out of that karma, it should be offered to the Lord. So I think this is what I feel personally, because I have experienced it.
No, which is true. You're making a transition, but the point here is being attached to the results of the things that you have done.
Yeah. So that's what, when we are getting detached from materialism automatically.
No, that's not the point only. It's not that being attached, the results are not always material. For example, let's say you start preaching and you do a program, and there are some students who you have cultivated and they have taken to Krishna consciousness. So there is an attachment to that result also. I did it. This is my effort. Nobody can say anything what to be done for them, not even my senior. I decide their future. I decide that. That's the point here, because a very strong mentality of being attached to the results. So, so one way what you're saying is correct, changing the paradigm, but that sense of, attachment to the results doesn't go away that easily. And that comes in a spiritual paradigm also. This is my donor. He gives to me, cannot give it to anyone. That I cultivated him. So it's there. So we're just discussing. So good answer. Thank you. Okay. Was Vaikuntapati Prabhu. Devotees, you got to lower down your hands once you have spoken. So I'm getting confused. There's so many hands are up here. Vaikuntapati Prabhu, you're not visible only.
Yeah. I tend to agree with what Madhav Prabhu said to a large extent. It comes by practice.
Correct.
if start doing it regularly, then the initial stages, yes, you have a lot of attachment. Whether although you don't want to express it in the heart of hearts, it is there. It comes up, and it tells you, see, I did that because of me, these things happen and all this. In the initial stage, it is there. But as you keep hearing lots of lectures, you associate with the devotees, and you read the scriptures, these things open up in your mind that this is not a right feeling one should get. One should work on these feelings. And once you start working on it, then you gradually reach a stage where you do it, you don't bother about it.
Okay, so fantastic. So I would have to move ahead. We'll take inputs all of you ahead also in different questions. To summarize this point, it has to start somewhere, not only on the mental level, but also in terms of physical action. So therefore, the acts of charity, the acts of dedicating our time in the service, particularly rendering service on behalf of the temples or behalf of the seniors, definitely you can't really claim the your right on the result. Lest you go for book to the submission on behalf of temple, doing services like that. So somewhere it has to start, and that's how the training begins. So don't keep it up to the level of mind, thinking, and feeling, but it has to also go into action. Starting slowly makes sense. All right. So now that's what kind of Arjuna going to ask. My dear Lord, how can I not be attached? How not to be attached to the results gained by one's hard work? Krishna says, whose hard work? What are you talking, Arjuna? Something you're saying? And Krishna says now text number 13 and text number 14. Krishna says, Panchaitani Mahabhavu Karanani Nivodame Sankhye Kritanti Pruktan Sadhi Sarva Karmanam. O mighty Arjuna, according to Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn from me about it. So Prabhupada says the Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible, like this. And text number 14, what is the answer for this? Adhishtanam tata karta karanam cha prathak vidham vivadhascha prathak cheshta daivam chaivat panchamam. 5 factors. Krishna says Adhishtanam tatha karta. Adhishtanam is a place where the work has been performed, which means the body. Karta, the doer, the performer, the soul, who brings who desires to bring about bodily activity. Then karanam, which means instrument, the senses. Then cheshta, vividhascha prathak cheshta, different kinds of endeavors. And daivam, chaivata panchamam, daivam, the providence, ultimately the super soul, like that. Lord Shri Krishna talks about it. In reality, there are 5 causes which bring success to any activity: the body, the soul, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. Since we are only one of the 5, we should never have an overvalued estimation of ourselves. Thus, by working in a spirit of detachment, that's a point being highlighted here, offering the fruits of our labor towards the transcendental goal, one can function in this world and simultaneously remain aloof. That's what the subject matter of the 3rd chapter, verse number 9. Go back to 3rd chapter, verse number 9. Yagna arthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samacharaha. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in this way you will always remain free from bondage. This was 3rd chapter, verse number 9, and the classic verse of the 3rd chapter itself, verse number 30, also on the same line. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya dhyatma chetasa nirase narmamo vatva yudhyas vigata jvaraha. Therefore, Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship to your results, and free from lethargy, fight. And that is what the subject matter which we are discussing over here. Let's take a look at the puppets. Anyone would like to read the puppet? Shashwat Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. Verse number 14, right?
Yes, puppet.
Puppet. The word adhisthanam refers to the body. Soul within the body is acting to bring about the results of activity and is therefore known as karta, the doer. That the soul is the knower and doer is stated in the Shruti. Isa hi drishta srashta. It is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra by the verses Jino ata eva and karta sastrartha vatvat. The instrument of actions are the senses, and by the senses, the soul acts in various ways. For each and every action, there is a different endeavor, but all one's activities depend on the will of Supersoul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the super coach. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness under direction of Super Soul situated within the heart is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in
Krishna.
complete Krishna consciousness are
Continue,
not
continue.
ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the Supreme Will, the Super Soul, the Supreme Personality of the Godhead.
So simple example can be seen to understand this. Let's say, many times people ask this question, what did I do wrong? All round the year, I worked so hard. By the time of promotion, I didn't got the promotion. So they had the Adhishtanam, they engaged their body, their karta, they did their action, the doer, karanam, they engaged their senses, and cheshta. And cheshta means endeavors. They really worked hard. And how many of us would relate to it when we have had the situation? We have, these four factors are there: Adhishtanam, Karta, Cheshta, Karanam. But we still didn't got the result. How many of you relate to that? You studied very hard, but still didn't happen like this. So Daivam, like this. So we can see many examples in this where we realize we can actually kind of relate to it like this. Like His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj's, this is a very famous example of how, the doctor taking credit of saving life. And then Maharaj counted, oh, really? Does anyone die? He said, yes. Then you are the killer also. So how can you take a credit, when you will not take a blame of killing somebody? So how can you take a credit for saving someone's life like this? So the point here is, the lesson here is, our contribution is only 1/5. And 4/5 of the activities are beyond. Even the body, the senses, and these all are gifts of the material nature. Unless the super soul sanctions gives the direction for material nature, these things will not function. So only thing that out of the 5 where we are involved. Okay, let me ask this question to all of you. Among the 5 things, what is the only thing that we have control on? Adhishtanam, Karta, Cheshta, Karanam, Devam. Among the 5 things, where do we have the control on? So again, I'll ask. So maybe you can raise your fingers because you're taking time. Okay, so apparently everyone is typing Cheshta, but that's not the correct answer. Correct answer is Karta, the soul who desires. You forgot the 5th chapter, verse number 12, 13, 14? The 3 doers. The soul desires, super soul sanctions, and then material nature creates a facility for that desire to be fulfilled and gets the body into action. So it's only this one of the 5 things. Okay, text number 15. Lord Shri Krishna says ahead. Therefore, typing answer better is you give visual representation. If one person type the answer, everyone begin to think in the same line. Right? Text number 15. Sharira.
Sorry.
Yes.
Cheshta is desire, right? Cheshta is desire, isn't it?
Cheshta is endeavor.
Endeavor.
You can see
But
what
endeavor
word
is
means.
also, we have control on that, isn't it? We also have control on what endeavor you want to make.
Well, you have to take a look again at this verse, what it said, the place of action, the body, the performer. Who is a performer? Right? Everything else, your endeavor is also coming from your mind, thinking, feeling, willing. This also gifts of material nature. So only thing that we have in our control is desire. That is karta. Everything else is provided by the Lord. Text number 15. Shariravan mano yat. karma prarabhate naraha nyayam va vipritam va panchaiti tasya hetava. Whatever action, right or wrong action a man performs is by body, mind, or speech is caused by these five factors. Now, Lord Shri Krishna highlights how people get fooled and they claim the credit of being the doer, but well, they are not. Text number 16, Krishna says, Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tuyah pashyati krita buddhitvan nasa pashyati durmati. Krishna says, therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the five factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Purport, a foolish person cannot understand the super soul is sitting as a friend within and conducting his action. This is the subject matter again, 5th chapter. Now, text number 17, what Krishna says ahead. Yasya naham kato bhavo buddhi yasya nalipyate atvapi saima lokam nahamti nanibatyate. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Beautiful purport. Let's take a look at the purport, and then I'll give one or two examples to help you understand. Okay, who has not yet participated so far? I would encourage everyone to be a little active. Those who have not answered, maybe they can take a volunteer for reading it. So that way you remain alert. Or maybe I can pick up those, call on the names of those whose cameras are off. Giridhari Gopinath Prabhu, Manju Bhasini, Manisha, Mother Kamalika, Mother Shri Lakshmi, Srinivas Prabhu. I guess Mother Satya, I believe, is on his Jayapataka Swami Maharaj is in London, so might be busy there. Services. And Mother Dina Gadhavi and Harish Prabhu and
I'm
others.
also in UK, Prabhu. I'm going for the Guru Maharaj service, Prabhu.
Yeah, who is speaking? Oh, Mother Shri Lakshmi. All right, no problem, no problem. What happened to others? So I guess Mother Vandana might be there also. Giridhari Gopinath Prabhu, Dina Gadhavi, Harish Prabhu, Srinivas, Mother Manju. Okay. Our admins can note the name. They are not around.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm Giridhari Gopinath. I'm there.
Okay. Okay. TK. So when you're not able to switch on your cameras, please, you can send a message so we know of it. All right, Mother Manju, I saw your message. That's all right. We don't want to take the subject here, but you can always send a message. All right. So Mother Manisha, go ahead. Read.
Translation. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Purport. In this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that the desire not to fight arises from false ego. Arjuna thought himself to be the doer of action, but he did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. If one does not know that a super sanction is there, why should he act? But one who knows the instruments of work, himself as the worker, and the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. Such a person is never in illusion. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness, or a lack of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of Super Soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though killing, does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reaction of such killing. When a soldier kills under the command of a superior officer, he is not subject to be judged. But if a soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is certainly judged by the court of law.
Hare Krishna. So very beautiful point. I just read the translation. Very beautiful point in the purport. One is not motivated by false ego. whose intelligence is not entangled. Though he kills man in this world, does not kill. Prabhupada writes the line in the purport. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness or a lack of Krishna consciousness. Anyone would like to give a little purport to this? What Prabhupada is indicating to it over here? Very beautiful statement. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness. Well, in the case of Arjuna, Arjuna fighting the battle was the will of Lord Shri Krishna. So Arjuna is not fighting because he wants to fight like Duryodhan. In case of Arjuna, Krishna instructed and Krishna actually acted as a peace messenger, and Krishna was present all through all that during the phase of negotiation. And the decision to come on the battle was done under the guidance of Lord Shri Krishna. So Pandavas are not acting on the whims of their own mind and senses, on the mind. And they were acting under the direction of Lord Shri Krishna. So Krishna is saying, well, although you're going to perform an action which might be considered as violent, you're not going to get reaction for it because you're not motivated by false ego. You're not doing it in the capacity of as a personal activity or a responsibility. But you're following my order. Any explanation of this line? Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness. What Prabhupada means? Madhav Kripa Prabhu, you want to say something to this? Oh, can't you unmute? Yes.
Probably it was raised for reading, but anyways.
Okay, next time I'll ask those to have to answer the raised physical hand, so I understand who is raised and for what. Okay. ठीक है, अनादि अंशुमन प्रभु.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, probably the interpretation here is that what Prabhupada is saying is that when we act on, like he gives the example of soldier also, right? So when we act on our own account, when we are acting for our own self-interest, then that is arising from that false ego that I'm this body and I'm not the soul. And therefore I'm acting on my own account. And that is essentially godlessness also, because I'm not acting for Krishna. Whereas if I'm acting for Krishna in God consciousness, then kind of that is not a personal activity, and rather that's a Krishna consciousness.
Okay, very closely. I'll just a little bit add to it. Correct answer. You're in the right direction. And Prabhupada gives an example of a soldier. An example is to understand that a soldier, when he gets an instruction from his major or commander on the act of defending his nation to shoot, and he kills, then he's awarded as a gallantry award. However, the same soldier, when he on his own, even at the battlefield, shoots a bullet, he would be court-martialed. Yes or no? What to speak about coming back into the civilian area and doing an act of violence? He would be, subjected to the laws of that place, and the police will catch him. So that's a point over here. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego, godlessness, or a lack of Krishna consciousness. However, when a person is following, so the point is, when we are living our life under the direction of bona fide Guru Sadhu Shastra, it is all auspicious. I like to quote this as one of my favorite statements from first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Prabhupada says, any activity or endeavor taken, if it is blessed by the seniors or by the Guru, for that reason, becomes auspicious. Well, it does not guarantee that you will have the desired result. Please understand that. For us, auspiciousness means, what I wanted, I got it. It's not like that. It'll be all auspicious. Prabhupada says auspicious word particularly. You can look in the Vedaves for the word auspicious for the first canto. Why auspicious? Na karma lipate nare. That action will not bind you to this one. That's the point here. So in other words, personal activity and responsibility rise from the false in godlessness or a lack of Krishna consciousness, which means an action performed without taking proper guidance. That's the point here. Example of, again, an army man. When he's given an order to shoot, when he shoots, kills an enemy, he's given a gallantry award. But when the same army man shoots on his own accord, then he's court-martialed. Is that making sense? That's the point here, okay? Text number 18. Jnanam gneyam parignyata trividha karma chodana karanam karma karteti trividha karma sangraha. Again, one last point. So this particular point highlights how important it is for us to learn to work under guidance or to align ourselves as much as possible in that capacity. And therefore, you look in the Vedic scriptures, any action that was done in the past, any important decisions or actions, they've always done consultations. So somebody may feel today, oh, why so much? But this was the idea behind it. Text number 18. Jnanam gneyam parignyata. Knowledge, object of knowledge, known are the three factors that motivate action. So here by verse number 17, the first subject matter, karma yoga. In other words, what is tyaga, renunciation, and sannyas, renunciation of or renounce order. What is tyaga and what is sannyas? Lord Shri Krishna is encouraging tyaga, the path of giving up the attachment to the results. That's the subject matter. Let me just show the slide and summarize this first point here. So, summary of Karma Yoga. Thus, by working in a spirit of detachment, offering the fruits of labor towards a transcendental goal, one can function in this world and simultaneously remain completely aloof. So, should I give up work as it is troublesome? Krishna disagrees. Arjuna was finding it troublesome. His mind was disturbed and reiterates Yuddhasva Vigata Jara, give up your laziness and fight. Rather, again, Krishna reiterates that activity is not bad per se. The root of entanglement is our false ego with which we perform the activity. Thinking ourselves to be the doer. Prakriti, Kriyamanani, Guna Karmani, Sarvasha, Ankar, Gunatma, Kartaham, Iti Manyate. In essence, there are 5 doers, Karta, Karanam, Cheshta, Adhishthanam, and Daivam, by which any activity is performed. Since we are only one of the 5, we should now never have an overvalued estimation of ourselves. That's the essence of first 18 verses. Let's go to the next section, which is modes of nature. Verse number 19 to verse number 40. Here, Lord Shri Krishna is going to do analysis of the modes once again and going to consider different factors. In other words, looking around, when we see, we can understand with this knowledge that how everyone is deeply engrossed or consumed by the modes of material nature. So, why people seems to be so attached to this dukhalayam ashashvatam, despite being a place of suffering? Krishna pins the blame to the modes of material nature. This is the modes of material nature which entangles every individual according to their individual mentality. And Krishna here explains how these modes influence our knowledge, our actions, our understanding, our determination, and also ultimately our sense of happiness. So these are the subject matter which we'll cover in the text number 19 to text number 14. So knowledge, action, worker, understanding, determination, and happiness is what is being described ahead. So let's start text number 18. Or why don't we do one thing? We have discussed one big subject matter called as summary of Karma Yoga. Is around 1:15. Let's take a break and then come back before we get into the subject matter of modes of material nature. So it's around 1:13. Let's come back after 7 minutes at 1:20 and we'll resume our discussion then. Hare Krishna. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll resume our discussion back at 1:20. Until then, let's hear Srila Prabhupada's chanting.
Guru Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanitam Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we are back, 120 now. So let's resume our discussion. We are discussing now from text number 18 of the 18th chapter. Where is my presentation? Yeah, over here. Okay, so let's take a look. Text number 18. Jnanam niyam parignata trividha karma chodana karanam karma karteti trividha karma sangraha. So knowledge, jnanam, niyam, object of knowledge, parignata, and the knower. Trividha karma chodana are the three factors that motivate action. Karanam karma karteti, the senses, work, and doer are the three constituents of action. Like this. Very beautiful purport, actually, how an action is performed. Let's take a look at it. Madhurati Manji, your hand is up. Please go ahead and read the purport for text number 18.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm audible?
Yes.
There are three kinds of impetus for daily work: knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. The instruments of work, the work itself, and the worker are called the constituents of work. Any work done by any human being has these elements. Before one acts, there is some impetus, which is called inspiration. Any solution arrived at before work is actualized is a subtle form of work. Then work takes the form of action. First, one has to undergo the psychological processes of thinking, feeling, and willing, and that is called impetus. The inspiration to work is the same if it comes from the scripture or from the instruction of the spiritual master. When the inspiration is there and the worker is there, then actual activity takes place by the help of the senses, including the mind, which is the center of all the senses. The sum total of all the constituents of an activity are called the accumulation of work. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Now, text number 19, Krishna says about, he kind of introduces subject matter which is going to speak about is Jnanam karma cha karta cha trit hiva guna bhedatah prochate guna sankhyani yatharch shanutani api. According to three different modes, there are three kinds of knowledge: action, performer of action. Now hear of them from me. 14th chapter and then in 17th chapter, Krishna spoke about the modes. Let's take a look at it. Text number 20. So before we get into this discussion, we can spend some time in discussion, or we can be a little quick with it. Before we get into it, let's draw some, or revisit some principles about this modes. Mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. What is mode of ignorance? Ignorance is predominated by a lack of any knowledge or clarity. Often, what is considered to be good in mode of ignorance is considered to be wrong, and what is actually good is often what is actually wrong is considered to be good. Is entirely opposite to sattva guna, a mode of goodness. Laziness, such kind of sense is predominant in mode of ignorance. Mode of passion, fruitive desires, puja la pratishtha. That's mode of passion. What's in for me is prominent in mode of passion. Mode of goodness, sense of duty. Mode of goodness means I do it because it's my duty. That's a kind of high level, we can say, classification of these three. With that, a little background, let's take a look at each of it. So text number 20. Krishna speaks about knowledge in text number 20, 21, and 22. Sarvabhuteshu yenekam bhavam avyayam ikshate aribhaktam vibhakteshu tajnanam vidhisatvikam. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Purpose: a person who sees one spirit soul in every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, bird, beast, etc., possesses knowledge in the mode of goodness. In living entities, one spirit soul is there, although they have different bodies in terms of their previous work. 5th chapter, verse number 18, Vidya Vinaya, Sampanne Brahmani, Gavihastini. Thus, to see that one superior nature, that living force in every body, is to see in the mode of goodness, which means the living entity is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. Now, that is mode of goodness knowledge. What is knowledge in mode of passion? Where they don't see any difference between body and soul, they consider it to be the same. Text number 21. Pratatvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan pratakvidhan veti sarveshu bhuteshu pratajnanam vitirajasam. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. Puppet. Padma Govind Prabhu, go ahead, read the puppet, please. Hare Krishna. बहुत कम आवाज है आपकी. If you can see, you can fix your volume so that we can hear you well.
Now it is audible, Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. The knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. Purport: the concept that the material body is the living entity and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary. Or else, there are no individual souls, but there is an all-pervading soul which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of a temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there is no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion.
Krishna. So any example of this where people just say that, how Prabhupada is saying, the body and soul is same in the sense, they consider different bodies. They see prataktvena, they see differences. In the mode of goodness, a person doesn't see differences because he knows only the external is different, but however, the internal substance, Atma is one, Atma is same. However, in the mode of passion, they see differently. So when they see different bodies, they see it as different living entities. So that kind of discrimination or difference is seen like that. And when the body dies, the living entity dies. Anywhere you have seen this kind of a mindset? Yes, Anadi Anshuman Prabhu is very prominent. In fact, in many spiritual circles also. Anadi Anshuman Prabhu, go ahead.
So, Prabhuji, like more than an answer, it was a question for the mode of goodness, right? So, what does it really mean seeing this one spirit soul in everyone? So, because does this mean that it is the same spirit soul in everyone, or it is the same quality of spirit soul that is there?
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. One same spirit soul, not in that sense, which means there is a spirit soul, and spirit soul is part of Brahman in that sense. So, mode of goodness, if you want to elaborate on that, which means a person understands their reincarnation. There had been a past life, there would be a future life. So, they understand the subject matter of soul, as Krishna had discussed in the 2nd chapter. Whereas in mode of passion, the knowledges cannot accept that. They see, no, there is nothing called as soul, there is a body. Therefore, Prabhupada saying in the purport, body and soul is same. And they see prataktvena. They have a view of differentiating where they see every individual body looks different from other bodies, so which means individual living entities. They're different. So that's the point. And when the body dies, which means the consciousness dies, which means there is no existence after that. So that's the point here. Is that making sense? Yeah. Because it's a little tricky, therefore I thought I'd have a discussion. Any thoughts anywhere? Have you heard kind of this thing? Where there's one lifetime, that's it. So you don't have to necessarily name it, but if in case certainly wants to indicate, you can indicate. Go ahead, Nitai Pran Prabhu. Add something.
These modern world faith that have come in last few
Yeah,
decades.
so the prominent religions today, the modern day religions or Abrahamic traditions, correct. So you see from where it is coming. All right. Anything about the spiritual organizations that have come up with even within this India? I mean, it's okay, well, difficult to say, but let me I'll not name it. It's not appropriate for me to name it in a public class like this. So a question was asked to me where in one very famous spiritual organization, they're taught that humans always take birth as humans, animals always take birth as animals. So humans will remain humans, animals remain animals. Like that, they have it as a very famous spiritual organization. And this person asked me a question at the end of the class. They have made a short video that'll come shortly in some time on the social media. So you'll get to see who was the person who asked the question, what was the organization. So anyways, so yeah, there are many, many variations to it. All right. I hope you're getting some clue of it. Let's go to text number 22. What happens in what's the knowledge and ignorance? Text number 22. Yattu kusnavad ekasmin karye saktam mahitukam atatvatavad alpam cha tattamasam udharatam. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work. Yeah, I'm right, was right. Yeah. As the all in all without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. So as you see on the slide, by which attached to one work and knowledge of truth is very meager, foolish and materialistic. So let's take a look at the puppet. Rishikesh Prabhu, go ahead, read the puppet. Text number 22 puppet. Hare Krishna. Rishikesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you're under the spotlight to read text number 22 puppet.
Hare Krishna. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Purport. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge of concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product of the mode of passion. And knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Hare Krishna. So what is knowledge in pure goodness, which enables one to see all living beings as eternal individual sparks and servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Okay, let's take a look at the slide back again. So now in text number 23 to 25, there is a discussion on action. Text number 23. Niyatam sangarahitam aradveshatah kritam afala prepsuna karma yattat satvikam uchyate. That action which is regulated, which is performed without attachment and without love or hatred, without desire for fruitive results, which means which is done as a matter of duty, is said to be in the goodness, mode of goodness. Regulated occupational duties prescribed scriptures in terms of the different orders, one an ashram, performed without attachment or proprietary rights, therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction, without self-satisfaction, are called action in the mode of goodness. Well, they also should be called in mode of, Shuddha Sattva, because that is done for the pleasure of Krishna. Text number 24. What is the action done according to mode of passion? Yattu kamepshana karma sahankarena va punaha kriyate bahulayasam tadarajasam udharatam. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. And now action done according to ignorance, text number 25. What is an action done according to ignorance? Which is violation of the Vedic injunctions, disobedience of superiors, Guru Sadhu Shastra, that's an action performed in illusion. Anubandham shayam himsam anapekshaya cha paurusham mohadarabhayate karma yattatamasam. That action performed in illusion, disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. These are straightforward things. If anyone has any discussion, we can take it up. Let's read the purport of this particular verse. Oh, where are we? 1 second. Yeah. So, Mother Leela Nandani, please go ahead and read the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The purport by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. One has to give account of one's actions to the state or to the agents of the Supreme Lord called the Yamadutas. Irresponsible work is destructive because it destroys the regulative principles of scriptural injunction. It is often based on violence and is distressing to other living entities. Such irresponsible work is carried out in the light of one's personal experience. This is called illusion. And all such illusory work is a product of the mode of ignorance. Hare Krishna.
At this point of time, Arjuna has to ask a question. My dear Lord, my action is going to cause distress, so much distress, not only to the people who are going to die on the battlefield. What about to their family members who will lose their son, who will lose their brother, who will lose their father, husband, whatnot? So my being present on the battlefield and picking up my bow and arrow and shooting and killing the Kshatriyas of assembled on the battlefield, isn't it going to cause violence, and isn't it going to cause distress? So what's the understanding here? What's the baseline here? Anyone quickly? So this is same point being reiterated. Yes, Madan Sundar.
It is the supreme will of the Lord. He wants us to do our karma.
Arey, how do you know what is the supreme will of the Lord?
No, means we have to do our duty. He's been always telling, no, you have to perform your duty always.
So which means, okay, let me ask, Duryodhan fighting the war, which mode of consciousness does it come now?
That is mode of passion.
That is mode of passion. Okay, now how mode of passion? How do you say it's that mode of passion? Why mode of passion? I mean, he's challenged. He's challenged, and Kshatriya is challenged. Kshatriya cannot say no. He's being challenged, so he cannot say no. So
motives are not right, na? We have to be right. Motives also should be right.
See, that's the whole catch here. I mean, just like we say, every mental fellow would say everyone is mental except for me. Do we really have the capacity to understand our motivations to be right or wrong? You and I as a third person right now, we can judge about Duryodhan. But I'm doing this discussions to bring about for ourselves, to say motivations. How do I know my motivation? Because everyone thinks whatever I do is right. Even Hitler thought, getting rid of Jews. I'm doing a service to the humanity. So again, there is a principle, baseline principle we have discussed, but I'm again trying to see if you're catching it or not. All right. Okay. What about others? Well, you're kind of switched on with cameras and listening to something else. What would you like to say? Go ahead and give your input. Any thoughts into this? Duryodhana is acting there will follow Madhavandana. We must follow the instructions of bona fide spiritual guru. Renunciation, go ahead. What's your take on it?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, like if someone is acting in accordance with the principles of Guru Sadhu Shastra, that is to be considered the will of the Supreme Lord as well. So, in this case, because Arjun is fighting as per the instructions of Krishna himself, but it could have been as per the will of.
So, is it right to say we just cannot judge merely on the basis of externals?
Yeah.
Similarly, for ourselves to judge our actions are right or wrong has to be based on how much am I aligned. Is that right to say then?
Yes.
That's the point I wanted to just bring your attention again. Arjuna fought the war, Duryodhana fought the war, and if in case we don't have the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we over here gonna say both of them did an act of violence. But we don't blame Arjuna for the act of violence, because he followed the instruction of Lord Shri Krishna. And the war was for the purpose of establishing Dharma. And Duryodhan had done all the violations, he was an aggressor. There are 6 kinds of aggressors. Prabhupada mentioned the first chapter. He had been aggressive for that reason. Whereas in case of Duryodhan, he was given the chance to give back the 5 villages, etc. All that negotiation happened. But Duryodhan was not willing to take a good advice. So Duryodhan fighting the war was his own personal ambition. Many times people ignorant of this fact of Bhagavad Gita, they say, Yudhishthira ne bhi युद्ध करके गलत किया ना. रहने देते दुर्योधन को, अगर इतने ही godly थे. How many of you heard this argument? If Yudhishthira Maharaj was so godly, why he had to worry about kingdom? How many of you heard this argument? Let Yudhishthira Maharaj continue. Now you're getting the point? So you cannot judge on the externals here. Duryodhan did it for his own personal ambition. He was envious of Pandavas, false ego, etc. So to discuss about oneself, again, how much is our life aligned? That is what the subject matter going on here. And otherwise, you might be getting spaced out. Arey, theek hai na, ho gaya, kya karna hai ye? So therefore, I thought I'd just bring up this point again. Okay, so text number 26 onwards, let's take a look. So this is what we have kind of discussed right now. Oh, wait a second. Where is my PPT? Yeah. And chota kaise hoga? Exit full screen. Yeah, correct. So we are here. Action of work 23-25. Now worker is being discussed in verse number 26 to 28. So let's take a look at verse number 26. Mukta sanga naham vadi dhriti ussaha samamritaha siddhya siddhyo nirvikara karta satvika uchyate. When a performs his duty without association with the modes of mental nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. Again, you see, in the mode of goodness means not influenced, much with the result. This is my duty, I do it. Not getting too much worrisome about the result. And that's a very, very healthy state of consciousness. We'll come back to it in a short while. Let's take a look at the purport. Somebody would like to read the purport, and yeah. Hare Krishna. Siddhulu, Prabhu Siddhulu, go ahead. Yes, Prabhu. I'm apparently having your darshan for the first time, maybe, or maybe your first time participating. Okay, good. Happy to see. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Padhiye. Your volume is a little low. Want to speak loudly?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, better now.
A person in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental to the material modes of nature. He has no expectations for the result of the work entrusted to him because he is above false ego and pride. Still, he is always enthusiastic till the completion of such work. He does not worry about the distress undertaken. He is always enthusiastic. He does not care for success or failure. He is equal in both distress and happiness. Such a worker is situated in the mode of witness.
So here's my question to all of you. Thank you, Prabhu, for reading. My question to all of you is, what's the advantage of being situated in goodness in relation to performing action? Of course, na karma lipyate nare, that all is clear. You don't get bound by reactions, all that is okay. But even if, let's say, you have to talk to and somebody who doesn't want to really take to Krishna consciousness, but even for him to rise to the mode of goodness, how is it really helpful for him, to be situated in goodness and perform his duty, perform his work? Any thoughts here? Yes, Chaitanya Bhagwan Prabhu, go ahead.
Because this is the foundation platform to go to next higher escalation to the Vishuddha Sattva. Means.
Correct. From our perspective, that could be true, but that's not his aim, and that's not what he's looking. If that's not what he's looking, you cannot give him this justification. Even if this is not the reason, how is still helpful for him to be situated in mode of goodness, to perform his action, or to be a worker in goodness?
At least that he will be not entangled by this because of.
Okay, that's also not his concern. I said that before also, he's not bothered with all this. Okay, you're really thinking from the devotee perspective. What else can you say? Anything else that you can tell to such a person? Okay, Sandeep Prabhu, go ahead. What's your take on it?
Hare Krishna, Vinay. So, Prabhu, for a person in mode of goodness, he is the one who contemplates and is also taking action. Unlike person who is in passion or ignorance. Ignorance person does not think also, does not act also. Passionate person always act, but acts and then thinks. But a goodness person in goodness thinks and then acts.
Fine. Again, thank you. Again, in terms of performing action, how is it beneficial? How is it required? Everyone is actually performing action for the sake of happiness. For that result, let's say happiness to be the result, how is it required to be situated in goodness? I've given enough clues now. Okay, Mother Chintamani, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, when you are in the mode of goodness and you do it out of duty with not looking at the results, the very fact when you are not bothered about the results means whatever comes you are satisfied. And that satisfaction leads to a mental state of mind which is happy. Otherwise, when you are running after the results, you are always in a distressful state of mind.
Correct. That's the thing. I'll just add a little bit over here. So all stress that arises today is because of attachment to result. How many of you agree? People are getting into all this anxiety, stressful situation because they're overthinking about the result. And they worry about the result is what, in fact, further reduces their performance. Because now they're not able to put their head into the action that they need to perform, but they worry about, what will happen, this and that, they're kind of always lost. While a person performing an action mode of goodness, he derives his happiness from the action itself. The work itself gives him a sense of satisfaction and contentment. Whereas in passion, the weightage is largely given to the result. And that is very exhausting. Why is it very exhausting? Because results are not in our hands. We don't control. But what we control is what action we perform and how we perform. So if what is in our control, we can do it nicely, then we're happy. But because we're thinking about something which is not in our control, if we get it, okay. If you don't get it, you'll be distressed. So even on a human level, just, even if not a God conscious level, just to be happy in this world, cultivating mode of goodness is essential. That's a point you just want to highlight here. Okay, so text number 26, we kind of discuss about personal Krishna consciousness. Text number 27. Ragi karma phala presput lubdho himsatmako suchihi harsha shokan vita karta rajasa parikirtitihi. Kirtitaha. The worker is attached to work, the fruits of work, designed to enjoy these fruits, who is greedy, always envious, impure. Such a person cannot even have good friends also and become highly competitive because this whole, more of passion. Where is his happiness? Who is greedy, envious, impure, moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. The last few lines of the purport. He is very happy if his work is successful, very much distressed when his work is not successful, such as the work in the mode of passion. Text number 28. Ayuktaha prakrata stabdaha shato nishkrito alasaha vishadidirga sutricha karta tamasa uchate. The worker is always engaged in work against injunction. Scripture's mode of ignorance is straightforward violation of scriptures. Materialistic, obstinate, cheating, expert in insulting others, lazy, alasaha, always morose, and procrastinating is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. Purport, very nice purport. Bhagavati Karuna Mataji, please read the purport to text number 28.
In the scriptural injunctions, we find what sort of work should be performed and what sort of work should not be performed. Those who do not care for those injunctions engage in the work not to be done, and such persons are generally materialistic. They work according to the modes of nature and not according to the injunctions of the scripture. Such workers are not very gentle, and generally they are always cunning and expert in insulting others. They are very lazy. Even though they have some duty, they do not do it properly, and they put it aside to be done later on. Therefore, they appear to be morose. They procrastinate anything which can be done in an hour, they drag on for years. Such workers are situated in the mode of ignorance.
I want you all to come back to 16th chapter, verse number 23. This is the second last verse of the 16th chapter. Krishna says, one who discards scriptural injunctions, what happened to them? Yashasa vidyam usrajya, giving up scripture injunctions. Vartate kama karata, performs action according to one's desires. Nasa siddhim abhapnotim, nasukham na param gatim. Nasiddhi, which means do not get the desired result. Nasukham, no happiness. Na param gatim, not attain the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. So focus here, if you see how Krishna is building up or kind of being highlighted, it is essential for us to live our life according to the injunctions of Guru Sadhu Shastra. That's a point being discussed here, or maybe a lesson we can draw for ourselves. Okay, so action or work in ignorance, passion, goodness, pure goodness means performed solely for the satisfaction of Krishna and the spiritual master. Okay, the worker unconditionally serves Krishna and the spiritual master under any and all circumstances. Let's go to the next, understanding, from verse number 32, right? Text number 29, dekh lete hain. We'll kind of read translations now. We'll go with that. Well, now please listen as I tell you in detail of different kinds of understanding and determination according to three modes of material nature. Text number 30, translation. O son of Pratha, that, and okay, maybe I can ask devotees to read it. Shashwat Prabhu, read the translation purport of text number 30.
Hare Krishna. O son of Pratha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness.
Continue with the purport.
Purport. Performing action in terms of directions of the scripture is called pravarti, or executing action that deserve to be performed, and action which are not so directed or not to be performed. One who does not know the scripture injunction becomes entangled in the action and reaction of the work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness.
Hare Krishna. So understanding which is based on spiritual knowledge, that allows us to be situated in mode of goodness, where we know what to be done, what not to be done. That's the point here. Text number 31. When you don't have a spiritual understanding, or else even if you have spiritual understanding, but yet to act according to kama karataha, that comes in mode of passion. Text number 31. Mother Rupali, please read text number 30. Only one has translation only. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
O son of Pritha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion.
Okay, bewilderment. Go ahead. Text number 32. What happens in ignorance then?
Sorry?
Go ahead. Read the text number 32. I'm raising a question. What will happen in ignorance then? Krishna answers text number 32.
Okay. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives away in the wrong direction, O Pritha, is in the mode of ignorance.
Purport?
Intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working the opposite of the way it should. It accepts religions which are not actually religions and rejects actual religion. Men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man and accept a common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance.
Many times people ask this question on the name of religion, there is so much violence. And I often say this answer that there has never ever been a case of a violence on the name of religion. If there ever a case of violence on the name of religion, is only because people have taken irreligion to be religion. And that is what this particular verse is mentioning about, where people take irreligion to be religion, religion to be irreligion. Great man to be ordinary man and ordinary man to be a great man. Where people justify violence on the name of religion, where people justify our God is only God, everyone is kafir, set and whatnot. That all understanding arising because of mode of ignorance. Where violence is justified, killing other living entities, forget about the living entity, even human beings is justified on the name of God. That is all arising because of mode of ignorance. So that's the point mentioned. What is understanding pure goodness? Always perfectly consider Krishna through personalization confirmed by the scriptures and the spiritual masters. Next discussion is about determination from verse number 32, 35. Text number 33, Madan Sundar. Go ahead, read the translation and the purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. O son of Partha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. Yoga is a means to understand the Supreme Soul. One who is steadily fixed in the Supreme Soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life and sensory activities on the Supreme, engages in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is in the mode of goodness. The word Charinya is very significant, for it indicates that persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are never deviated by any other activity.
So goodness means decided. I have said it, I'll stay true to my words, regardless of, the result. Just like Yudhishthira Maharaj had given a word to Narad Muni, post Rajasuya Yagya, when Narad Muni appeared to him, came to meet him and said, Yudhishthira Maharaj, very soon you're going to be the cause of the destruction of Kuru Vamsha. Yudhishthira Maharaj was frightened. He said, how can I do so? And then Yudhishthira Maharaj said, well, the destruction can only happen when a subordinate or when a younger man becomes disobedient to the elders. So I take a vow, I take a solemn vow that I would not disobey any instruction of my senior. And this information gets leaked to Duryodhan. And therefore he pleaded to Dhritarashtra to organize a dice game and invite Pandavas. So some of you might have wondered, okay, Pandavas, Yudhishthira Maharaj got carried away with the request for gambling. As a Kshatriya, they cannot say no to gambling. Sometimes it is said like this. But why, for God's sake, Yudhishthira would go twice, would go again, knowing the fact, everyone knew, all the Pandavas, Draupadi, everyone knew, we lost the game, we're just going to lose it. They were mentally prepared because of Yudhishthira Maharaj's vow. He had taken a commitment like this. So even the result is not favorable, the person is sticking to it. Like that's the point. Text number 34. Where determination wavers according to the result, fruitive results like that. So, Mother Vasana, would you like to read? Go ahead. 34 translation and purport. Done words.
But that determination by which one holds fast to
fruitive results in the religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. Papa, any person who is always desirous of fruitive result in religion or religious or economic activities, who is only desire in his sense gratification, and whose mind, life, and senses are thus engaged in the mode of passion.
Sense gratification, according decided, that's mode of passion. Mother Pallavi, thank you, Mother. Please read the text number 35, translation and purports. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Standard pranam.
Is Prasad Prabhu also on the mobile phone? Then he has to mute. Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Text number 36. O best of
35,
the
35.
Okay. Text number 35. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. Such unintelligent determination, O son of Pratha, is in the mode of darkness. Purport. It should not be concluded that a person in the mode of goodness does not dream. Here dream means too much sleep. Dreaming is always present, either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Dreaming is a natural occurrence. But those who cannot avoid oversleeping, who cannot avoid the pride of enjoying material objects, who are always dreaming of lording it over the material world, and whose life, mind, and senses are thus engaged, are considered to have determination in the mode of ignorance.
Hare Krishna. So that completes the discussion on the subject matter of determination. Now, next Krishna speaks about happiness. What is the nature of happiness according to the different modes? Let's take a look at it. First of all, we'll read the text number 36. O Vaishya the Bharata, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which it sometimes comes to the end of all distress. For the fourth line, the purport provides. In other words, the conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification. But when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness. He is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. All right. So text number 37 onwards. Murli Mohan Prabhu, please read 37 verse and purports.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. Text number 37. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Purport. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison, but if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life.
So spiritual life, Prabhupada is giving an example, waking up in the morning, following Ekadashi, giving up bad habits. It all seems like poison in the beginning. But once who get used to it, that same poison becomes nectar later on. Text number 38. What is the happiness and mode of passion? Thank you. Oh, who else would like to read? Haven't read so far. Okay, Nitai Pranpu, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Translation. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their object and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be of the nature of passion. Purport. The young man and a young woman meet, and the sense derive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have a sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated or there is divorce. There is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of a sense and sense object is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means.
So passion, which seems exciting in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it becomes miserable. And the classic example is any kind of interaction with sense object. Sense object in Sanskrit is called Vishaya. Vish, poison, Vishaya, which gives you poison. Very interestingly, it's mentioned. Text number 39, translation purport. Mother Poonam. Go ahead, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep. Purport. One who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, ignorance, and one who has no idea how to act and how not to act is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning and at the end distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress, both in the beginning and at the end.
Any example of any activity which apparently makes a feeling that I'm enjoying, but actually it's a misery in the beginning and misery in the end? Any example of any such thing? Which fits into this mode of ignorance example? Yes, Anadin Shwantu.
Overeating gulab jamun.
Drinking alcohol, Prabhu. So, like,
yeah, drinking alcohol. Correct.
Prabhu, what about overeating gulab jamun?
That's more a passion. But eating, drinking alcohol. Most interesting is smoking. I can never understand how could smoking can, give any sense of happiness. Anyways, there are already so many cars. You can put your mouth on the exhaust pipe of the car. Some pollution will also reduce. Why to buy pollution and create pollution? Sorry, if somebody feels a little offended by my harsh statement, but it's just I'm raising a question. You're smoking and creating pollution. There is already so much vehicles there. You can put a pipe to the exhaust pipe and get a free smoke. So yeah, many things like this could be. Probably drugs also. I don't know. Things can be. All right. So we come to the text number 40. Fantastic. We are completing today's decided syllabus. Na tadasti prithiviyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jaya muktam yadabhi syat tribir. There is no being existing, neither here or among the demigods in the higher planetary system, which is freed from these three modes, born of material nature. The Lord here summarizes the total influence of three modes of material nature all over the universe. Wow. Not even the devatas, even they are not spared. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the modes of material nature. So this is out of the syllabus, but I'll raise this question and we'll conclude with this. Let me just see where we are on the presentation here. So what we have done right now is the analysis of the modes: knowledge, action, worker, understanding, determination, happiness. At this point of time, to summarize this whole thing, in goodness, generally it leads to a constructive action. In passion, well, it depends. If the person has some good guidance, then his actions can become constructive. Whereas in ignorance, even if you have a good counsel, it will always be destructive. That is goodness, passion, ignorance. So at this point of time, Arjuna pondered, so my dear Lord, what is the solution? How an ordinary person can set himself free from the clutches or the influence of modes of material nature? On one hand, we are expected to be aloof, an unattached worker. Krishna has been saying about this, become detached. But in reality, we are conditioned or influenced by the modes, which implicates us in worldly life. So how can we become free from the influence of modes of material nature? I believe all of you will appreciate this question, which is the most appropriate question this point in time. And that will bring us to the next section, titled as Ideal Worker, from verse number 41 to 45, where Lord Shri Krishna will speak about Varna and Ashrama. What is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and their dharmas, guna and karma, that is being described. So that we'll see that next time. So here, I have a question for all of you. And the question is, Prabhupada says, Krishna says, text number 40, there is no being existing either here on this world or among the devatas in the higher planetary system which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. which means either us, either Devtas or Asuras. Everyone is influenced by the modes of material nature. So what discriminates or distinguishes between Devata and demoniac? If all of us are influenced by the modes of material nature at the end of the day, not that the Devatas are acting under Shuddha Sattva, they are also influenced. So what discriminates between Devatas and demons? Please raise your hand. What would you like to say for that? This is not something very difficult question. I've made a point again and again. I've just paraphrased the question differently. The answer is same. So I'm just trying to see how many of you are confident. So I'm kind of conducting your interview right now. Whoever gives the right answer will get a +5 bonus marks in your OBA and CBA, whatever you want to call it. So let's see who got the right answer over here. Hey, only this much little hands. What about others?
Question.
No negative marking, by the way, okay? Don't get afraid. Huh? If you give a wrong answer, I'm not going to cut your marks. So, but let's see what you got it. Don't start typing in. Once you start typing in, people will start developing that mindset. Ki wahi hoga.
So can you repeat the question once more?
Who is asking for the question? Yeah, the question is, everyone, text number 46, is influenced by the modes of material nature. Either the Devtas, we, earthly beings, and also the Asuras. So what is the difference between all of us? What is the difference? If you all, which means even Devtas are not under Shuddha Sattva.
Right.
So what is the difference? All right. So let's hear from whom? Okay. All right, let's begin. Mother Anjana, what would you like to say? Yes.
Like demons are worshippers of.
Not clear, mother. Not really clear.
Hello, my voice is not clear from you. Hello,
No.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, a little bit. Go ahead.
I say, is it that demons are worshippers of demigods like Lord Shiva, Goddess Durga, something like that, and Devtas are worshippers of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna.
Okay, fine. Okay, what else? Padma Govind Prabhu. Yes, go ahead.
Generally, the demons, they, even though they are come under influence of mode of nature, the works which they do, the actions which they do are not proper. Whereas the demigods, they do for they even though they are attracted by mode of nature, most of the works which they do are useful ones. Can be
Okay. All right. Okay, interesting. Correct. Okay, thank you. Okay. Mother Manisha, what would you like to say? Go ahead, you're unmuted.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, the demons, they are generally in the mode of ignorance, and the demigods, they are the representative of the god, which are facilitating the humanity of maybe the other species also. So basically, if the demigods are generally, they have played in the other purpose. The demigods are the representative god. They are facilitating this nature.
Where are the human beings then?
Human beings, nature also. In nature, we human beings and other species are included. So they are facilitating for us. Means they are working. They are in a mode, but they have given the responsibility to facilitate others. Whereas the demons, they most of the time they think that whatever facility is provided, it should be used for us only.
Okay. Correct. But we're missing one very fundamental thing here. We're missing something here. Okay, good. Definition wise is good. All right. Let's take a look at it. Shashwat, let's hear from you. What's your take?
Yes. So, Prabhu, the difference lies in their obedience. So,
in their obedience.
Yeah.
Okay. So who are those who stay up? Who are demons? Those who stay below earth. Is that what is our first initial classification?
So the classification is probably like obedience to scriptures and the will of Supreme Lord.
Where do you find these people, Devatas?
So amongst ourselves, Prabhu, like humans only, they have dynamic nature.
Okay. All right, good. Mother Varsana, let's hear from you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Demons and demigods, the difference is that demigods follow according to the scriptural injunctions, and they do the activities for the pleasure of the Lord and assist the Lord in administration. However, the demons, they are not following the scriptural for instructions, and they are living for themselves, just to satisfy their senses.
So where are the Devatas and demons living? Do we have any address for them?
In everybody.
And everybody. And everybody. Okay, Madhaki Prabhu, let's hear from you. Where are you?
Yeah, here only. Just a moment.
Okay.
To pinpoint that there is nothing like that, but yeah, Jana Lok, Tapalok, Satyalok, like this, Mrityalok and below Lokas, there could be addresses of the Devatas, anything above the Mrityaloka, and Danas could be anything below the earthly Loka, I mean the Mrityaloka. But coming to a specific point, like the surrender, I mean, whenever Devatas are influenced by the modes of nature, they realize their mistake quickly and they take shelter of either their guru or they go to some superior like Brahma, and then what they subsequently do is a course correction.
Okay, good. You mentioned that.
Otherwise, we don't see that. They are adamant.
Okay. But interestingly, in the 16th chapter, we saw Prabhupada writes for both Devatas and the demonic beings, Sura and Asura, they both have the same parentage lineage, Kashyapa, Diti, Kashyapa, Aditi, same lineage. And interestingly, all the Devatas derive their strength from the blessings of Brihaspati, and Asura derive their strength from the blessing of Shukracharya. Shukra is a planet. Brihaspati is a planet among the planetary systems that we have. Shukracharya is not born to a demonic family. He is also a Brahmana. So it's a very interesting subject matter. In essence, if we talk about it, this Asura is a subject matter of mentality. So what you all were indicating and speaking about mentality. And Lord Shri Krishna in the 16th chapter therefore mentions the discriminating or the defining line between Sura and Asura is those who live or abide by the instructions of scriptures, they are said to be Sura. Those who live in violation of scriptural injunctions, they are said to be Asura. They could be in a saintly garb. They could speak very nicely, look very saintly, but they could still be of a demoniac consciousness. So it's upon how an individual adheres to scriptural life or scriptural injunction. That's what 16th chapter talks about it. And it's not that they live on different planets. Of course, they are, no doubt about it. So mistakes do happen by Devatas. Many examples in scriptures about it. And they're making a mistake. 4th canto, 5th canto, 6th canto, 10th canto. Again and again, there are many incidences of it. So that's a point. So it's subject matter of our consciousness. And one last statement on the subject matter of Devatas. Of course, they need to be respective and whatnot. But we need to understand, scripture says the only person born from Vishnu is Brahma. Only person born from Vishnu is Brahma. Every other living entity which is injected or impregnated into this material nature by the glance of Karana Daksha Vishnu comes into this world along with his past karma and swabhava. So Kashyapa and Aditi, they gave birth to 12 Adityas, different Devatas. They're beings of this world. They're born into this world. So, his only thing is that's a living entity which is far much more aligned, has lived a life very close to scriptural injunctions, aligning oneself to Guru Sadhu Shastra. Mother Kripa made a wonderful point that they believe in course correction. They go and take shelter of the spiritual master or Brahmaji, or ultimately they go to Vishnu. They will not fight against Vishnu. They never become envious of Vishnu. And that was a very important point about the course correction, like that. So when we talk about ourselves, we are also part of this being. What our mentality is would define where we end up, into what consciousness. And that's what kind of discussion going on 16th chapter onwards. So to transcend the modes of material nature is something which we need to try, aspire for. And to do so, to help us transcend the modes of material nature, to function properly, to grow, and to transcend. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna gave us a system of Varna and Ashram, so that everyone performs his duty according to the acquired modes, do not get too much attached to the result consciousness, and they make a progressive path, ultimately to go back home, back to Godhead. So with that, we pause here. It's 2:20. We are right on time. So thank you all for kind attention. Some of the hands are up here. Anyone has anything to say or add here? Please go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhu, I have one question to ask. Yeah. Now.
Oh, Vaikunthpati Prabhu.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes, Prabhu.
In the 40th text, in the purport, it's being said that all the planets in the universe are affected by the three modes of material nature, which means even the devas are getting affected by the three modes of material nature. That's what the discussion is on. Now the question is that they get affected by this mode of ignorance also. And any example for that mode of ignorance of that where they have got affected?
Mode of ignorance, mode of passion, definitely Indradev becoming proud and disobeying and disrespecting his special master Brahaspati when he entered the assembly, 6th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Like that, again, he's getting affected by envy and insecurity. Maybe that is mode of ignorance in the 4th canto when he competed with Prathu Maharaj. Like that.
Mode of ignorance, because the thing.
This is mode of passion, largely mode of passion. Mode of ignorance in general means,
we say procrastination, laziness, and other things we say. So in that context, I don't remember having read anything like that about.
Correct. I mean, probably they're corrected pretty quickly. Just like Indra became proud. Yeah. The modes begin to degrade. The Devatas are supposed to be, those Indra, they are all supposed to be situated in mode of goodness, perfectly in goodness. That's the Swargaloka. He's already degraded to mode of passion, or maybe just to teach us for a lesson. That's okay. Where he becomes proud of his opulence and wealth, and although he saw Brahaspati entering, yet willfully neglected. So he was corrected then and there before he could have gone into mode of ignorance if it was fanned further. So maybe that's the reason we don't have much example of that.
So, Indra also committed the crime of Mahatya.
Correct.
Mahatya, could it be categorized as mode of ignorance? Because you are doing something.
Violation of scripture, complete violation. Yeah, Brahman's wife, Guru's wife, all this complete. Yeah, why not? As long as your modes of material nature, therefore you can always act accordingly. Could be. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So a couple of hands up. Just to remind you, reading is done. So if your hands are still up for reading, kindly lower it. And a physical hand up, I'll ask them. Yes, Mother Chintamani.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I had one question. You said that only Brahma is born out of Vishnu. What about Sadashiv?
Well, Sadashiv is not part of this world. 9th canto Srimad Bhagavatam talks about it. Sankarshan expanded himself into Sadashiv, and he's not part of this material world.
Okay, and so it's in the material world you're talking of.
Yeah, who appears in this world is Rudra through Brahmaji.
Yes, understood. Yes,
and that point was regarding who appeared in this world.
Yes.
Like
understood.
That.
Okay.
Sargayanti Parantapa. Okay. So, okay, anything else? Mother Madhavni has hand up and Anadi and Shumatu. Okay, Padmavan, put your hand for reading up. I assume that. Okay, Madhav. You have something to say?
I have some small doubt, Prabhuji. In verse number 26, it is stated that an individual who, without any association of remorse, if he performs the duty with determination and enthusiasm, then he will be doing it in a mode of goodness. But determination and enthusiasm means it is as good as passion, which is also a mode of nature.
No, determination. Okay, that's a little bit of misunderstanding. Mode of goodness doesn't mean the person is sitting idle. If in case you read about Srila Prabhupada, then with this understanding, we'll tell Prabhupada was the most passionate person. He was unstoppable. For example, we see he's on a Jayapataka Swami Maharaj in the modern day, regardless of whatever happens to his physical body, just beyond it entirely. I was in Vishakhapatnam, Maharaj was coming, and the temple had put this big, beautiful banner. We welcome Mr. Unstoppable. Oh, fantastic thing, that's Maharaj, So somebody will say, Arey, why are you doing so much? You've got so many sannyasi disciples. Let them preach. Sit and relax, chant Hare Krishna, be happy. Cultivate some goodness. Why so much passion? So not like that. So mode of goodness is not like you sitting idle and not doing anything. Only thing in mode of goodness is done on the platform knowledge. You're not attached to the results, but you're enthusiastic about action you're performing. Okay? Madam Davni.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandatpranam. Thank you for the wonderful session, Prabhu. Prabhu, I just wanted, if you can elaborate on the 3 doers and the 5 causes of action. So, if you, like you said, the jiva desiring is equivalent to karta, and then the Lord's sanction is daiva, right? Daivam, right? And the prakriti arranges for the things to happen as per the sanction of the Lord. So can we categorize the other 3 things like the karta, the karanam, and the chetana? What is it?
Cheshta.
Cheshta. Cheshta as the arrangement
we can do analysis of it. I would kind of refrain from saying anything. I would have to think more on it. As far as I have read, there is nothing mentioned on this regard clearly under which 3 categories it comes. But the same 3 things which I mentioned in the 5th chapter have been further elaborated into 5 things here now. So we can sit and do a little analysis, wear it and all that. Would it be right? I'm not sure of it. Prabhupada doesn't mention it. Neither Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur does an analysis for me to speak of it. Maybe with my limited understanding, I can say. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't help. Even if not the 5 things, even if not the 3 things we have kind of understood. So even if not the 1/5, at least we are not the 1/3. We are only the 1/3, even if not the 1/5. All right.
Correct.
Yes.
Prabhu, I got this query because you asked us to actually find out.
Get the backgrounds. Correct.
No, Prabhu, there's a question there. So how is karta and cheshta? How are they different? Because karta, the soul's only duty is desiring, right? Nothing more than that. And cheshta is the result of the desire only, right? When we endeavor for something what we desire for. So how is it that cheshta is not within the control of the jiva? And how is it different from karta? And why is it separately mentioned? That is what I want to understand.
Well, Krishna made it 5 different things, which means they are different.
Fine.
Now, maybe if it makes sense to us or not, that's a different thing. But it ain't. I am saying that it is like this.
I'm just trying to understand.
That's what I'm saying. We can understand how much Prabhupada explained. Somebody can ask a question. After all, it is my body. Why it is Adhishtanam kept different? And the same body has the senses. How is the Karanam and the body is different? It's also the same thing, but not necessarily. It's a part of the Sankhya Yoga with their further subdivisions. All right. Anadi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like we discussed, so as to be able to kind of have that feeling of tyag, right? Be unattached to the outcome or to the results of work. So,
actually, very first thing, just to interrupt you, very first thing, we need to understand what's in for us, what's the advantage for us if we become detached from the result. Therefore, I brought in the discussion where I asked a question: how would you explain this mode of goodness lifestyle to somebody who doesn't want to become Krishna conscious? How is it helpful for him? You can only be happy if you're in mode of goodness. It's in our good interest that we become detached from the results. Not that we are doing a favor and it's not a big austerity. ठीक है, कृष्ण ना कहा है तो थोड़ा detached हो जाते हैं. इच्छा तो नहीं कर रही प्रभु, तो तुमने कह दिया है, अब आ गए हैं स्थान में तो कर लेते हैं. No, 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 that should not be the mindset. It's for me. Therefore, here's a question. What would you say for an atheist? You cannot be happy if you're attached to the result because you don't have any control on the result. Therefore, people get into stress, anxiety, envy, whatnot. So now from this perspective, if you see whatever Krishna is saying is only for our good. We should never ever get into this idea, या भगवान सब कुछ कहते हो आपका है फिर भी हमसे मांगते हो थोड़ा तो एंजॉय करने दो हमारे कर्म के फलों को. We should not have that idea. And you're about to come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, so you should understand this. It's everything for our interest, not that Krishna is enjoying anything from our activities. Go ahead, Anandi Nishwan Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for that explanation. So, like the question itself was that, we also had a discussion on the practical way of implementing this in our life, right? So, and we had a lot of views on that. So, but what's the conclusive view on that? Like, what's the best way to implement it practically in our life?
Yagna, dana, tapaha should never be given up. Yagna, dana, tapaha, Krishna himself says, should not be given up. Charity, we're going to see that what's the responsibility for different varna and ashram. Yagna, dana, tapaha, every ashram has to perform to different degrees. Let's say for a grihastha, they have their own yagna, dana, tapa. It should be performed. It should not be given up. And generally, we give up out of laziness. We often give it up, those practices, because of our attachment. Very interesting point. Again, I'll bring your attention to. Prabhupada says, if somebody acts according to one's own personal endeavor, he is not in Krishna consciousness. We read that and we had a discussion about it where we said, just like a soldier, even if he shoots at an enemy without the order of the commander, he can be court-martialed. Isn't it? The situation is different. If the enemy is attacking, that's a different thing in defense. But line of control. Remember the case where Brahmos was mistakenly fired? Fortunately, Brahmos was not charged up. Otherwise, it was empty. You all would know of the case that happened. And the person, whoever the military individual was there, he was court-martialed, or he was kind of removed from the responsibility like that. So we should start doing things which are meant for us. The point I was trying to say, we often the reasons that we give why, or the reasons we give often for not doing this yajna dana tapaha, foremost reason is my body will not support it. First, for different kinds of tapa. Second excuse comes is, oh, I have so many responsibilities, so many factors, so many people depend on me. I have so many. This is for dana. Why people refrain from giving charity. I have so much expenses, so many bills to meet, this, that, and all that. No, that's again excuses. I was making a point yesterday. Those boys who think my parents are surviving on my earning, my question to you is, before your birth, how were your parents surviving? How were they surviving? And if in case somebody has to die prematurely, how would the parents continue to survive? Who doesn't survive in this world? Everyone survives. To take that ownership and control over oneself. Oh, looks like my camera is off, for some reason.
Yeah, it felt like talking to Brahmajyoti.
I was looking at you all the way, so I didn't realize the camera is off. Suddenly I saw, hey, why there is a black, all black there. Then I realized that is my camera only. I was thinking, who's sitting with the switched off camera even at the end of the class? It turned out to be me only. Anyways, I kind of lost the track of thought. What was I saying? So yeah, we have this kind of thought, again, as the 10 offenses say, what is the 10th offense? Despite hearing so many instructions, chanting the holy names of the Lord, yet remain attached. Not to give up material attachments is an offense. So these are excuses for various things like that.
But Prabhu, this is again like knowledge, right? So, and we discussed that sometimes knowledge doesn't help, right? So,
yes.
So what could be a practical way of implementing this in every day?
See, you cannot get into an action unless your intelligence is convinced. But in a conditioned nature, even if intelligence is convinced, ultimately he is dictated and dominated by mind. Therefore, mind is the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Shastra. They never focus too much on intelligence, but they always focus on mind. Mind is the thing which is of thinking, feeling, and willing. To really make it work, we have to have a relationship, sense of feeling. We have to have some connection with somebody where if the person says, how I cannot follow it. Therefore, in Bhakti Marg, making progress becomes far much more easier, even for an individual working in an IT company dealing with material life day in, day out. Gyani cannot even dream about it. He has to give up everything because their progress depends on a lot of their own endeavors, their own tapasya. So how are we making progress living in the city, moving around for conferences and doing all kind of thing? Yet Krishna says, Yogina api sarvesham madhyagatina antaratmana. And same Krishna saying, don't give up. Be there. Be part of the world. Don't quit the world, but become detached. And the answer is all of us have taken to bhakti because we got influenced and inspired by somebody. Largely, it should be and it would have been Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada have said it, so I should not do it. No, it will be so uneasy. How can I still continue to live my life? Prabhupada said it. Of course, certain things which were little attachments, we could give it up. But because Prabhupada is not personally present in front of us, so when big attachment comes, it becomes difficult. Then we need a living guru. So a living guru comes into the picture, or mentor, or any senior Vaishnava, anyone for that reason, has to be senior relationship at Kanishta stage, at our stage. So when that relationship is there and that person says something and we have, so therefore, for us, it's extremely important to invest in a relationship with Vaishnavas. Let me put it this way, if you understand what I'm saying here. Imagine Anati Anshuman Prabhu has become a senior congregation leader. Or let's say you're a preacher. You go around, give a lot of classes, and you meet a lot of students. You have a lot of students. But in all those students, you see there are a few handful of students who are quite obedient, quite attentive to what you say. And they're very quick in the sense they're responsible. Not that you have to do a follow-up of them. Maybe they're not IIT graduate, maybe they're not from city, maybe they're not wealthy family, they're from some simple background, maybe not much educated, but they have this right attitude. प्रभु ने बोला है करना है. कैसे करना है? बिल्कुल तन मन से करना है. Would you naturally pray for their progress? Yes or no?
Yes.
Among the rest, who may be intellectual class, might have memorized 700 verses, but they are like still caught up in their mind. Maybe practicing far before then this new fellows came. Every day you'll pray for him. And now when you have to tell something to them, Prabhu ne kaha hai, mana nahi kar sakte. Makes it happen. So we need to invest in a relationship. Therefore, we need to become obedient. Therefore, we need to have somebody under whose guidance we serve. And therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami discussed that in NOI text number 4. We'll discuss that. We're kind of concluding that discussion of our morning sessions. When our NOI starts, we'll take a look at elaborately that, how, actually there are 8 instructions. Not 8 instructions, there are 7 instructions. 8th verse is a conclusion. Out of 7 instructions, 7th is about chanting. So which means that there are 6 instructions. In the 6th instruction, there are 3 about self-improvement and other 3 is about relationship. Hare Krishna. And other 3 is about relationship with Vaishnavas. Very important concept. So I would say to conclude this very important question here for all of us to think about, who is that devotee in our life where we really want to invest our time and energy to build a relationship, where we have a trust, where that devotee has won our trust, that where we know that the devotee is practicing nicely, is progressing nicely, and I would like to move forward along with him. So where we have that, and are we, there has to be some relationship. We have to have some senior relationship, some equal relationship, some junior relationship. Not necessarily you have to have all of it right now, but at least one relationship definitely should be there. Senior relationship should be very well documented. These are the seniors, and those seniors are not should be YouTube personalities. Please, it ain't gonna work because they don't know you. I'm not saying they're not effective. They are effective, no doubt. But just listening to YouTube lectures, Zoom lectures, there is no personal connect, there is no service. There has to be exchange of seva. So many times it happens, you travel somewhere, somebody would just come and say, Prabhuji, thank you so much, very much for your class. We are so inspired. But I mean, it has happened so many times. I don't know how to reciprocate to them. I don't know. I mean, okay, thank you. You are listening. I'm happy that I could serve you some way. That's the maximum I could say. I could never say anything beyond it. You know, maybe the person is listening, but I don't know anything about that person. And you may feel so emotionally connected to that person. And then you may ask some very personal question. What do you answer? I mean, how do I answer that? I don't know anything about that individual. So these are the means. Otherwise, why? Our parampara, I've been discussing about this family consciousness that we should have in our morning session, last 2-3. Mother Madam, you can share the last 3 days, particularly day before yesterday and yesterday's NOI, those half an hour, 40 minutes discussion, which will further elaborate on what Anadi and Shaman Prabhu asked, or what I'm kind of answering, give you clues on that under this group. We all need to come and build up this family consciousness. ISKCON is my family. Is ours. Or we are Srila Prabhupada's. And ISKCON is my family. ISKCON is my house. We need to have that. Vaishnavas are my family members. Of course, we are a big society, so we cannot identify with everyone. But do we have some Vaishnavas to whom we identify with? Prabhu, you are mine. And how do we say you are mine, Prabhu? I'll serve you. And through service, relationship develops. And when that happens, naturally you'll see Krishna doing a miracle in your heart. When you apply yourself in relationship, Narad the boy, what did he do first? He began to serve the Bhaktivedantas. And Krishna did miracle in his heart. He began to take the instruction of Bhaktivedantas very seriously. He didn't plan it. Read those sequence of verses. And it said, when you engage in the service of devotees, your heart gets naturally purified. It happened automatically. And from that relationship, you get the strength to overpower our conditioned mind and do the right thing. I am convinced on it. It ain't possible in today's day and time. Not possible, not possible, not possible. Very difficult. We're kind of living like a Gyani. Our abilities, we can do it. But for how long? Text number 8, NOI. There also Krishna says, Rupa Goswami says, even after going to Vrindavan, take shelter of Anugami, Anuragi. Twice, Rupa Goswami says, take shelter of the devotees, and under the direction and guidance of devotee, continue to serve. At what point in time we become independent like that? So, so relationships is the thing. Strength of that relationship. Fine.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Huh?
Very wonderfully explained.
Thank you. If you have agreed, so which means I'm in the right direction. When you have the blessings of seniors, which means you're in the right direction. All right, so we come to the conclusion here, 2:45. I have to get ready for another event. Jagadaru Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very nice.
Thank you.